1980. My grandmother was born on Academy Street in 1899. Dr. Templeton was my grandmother's uncle. Templeton Street's named after him. So our family's been around here for a long time. We stayed here until about the 1980s. I came here in 2017. I came in 2016, bought a house, knocked it down, which is what I do. Like it or not, I'm gonna knock them down and build new ones. But I bought a house in 2016, subdivided the lot, built two houses over on South Dixon, moved in there. I came down here because it was a walkable downtown and I saw what was coming, and I wanted to be a part of it. I was an empty nester and just was tired of subdivision life. I built homes in subdivisions where I lived, and I was just ready to get out of that. I was ready to be where I could walk to Bond Brothers, to crosstown, to food and activities, and that's what brought me here.
Thank you. 2001, when I was in real estate school, I was tuning into Cary TV to the town council meetings, and I got to watch Glenn Lang and the gang put together the 2021, August 9th, 2021 is when the town center area plan was adopted. And I had just, I was in real estate school at the time, and so it was my study project. And so in 2006, purchased our building in the historic district and turned it into our office in 2007. And during that time, while the place was all torn apart, Mike Clifton walked in, knocked on the door and said, "Hey, I'd like you to come to a Heart of Cary Association." And that was it. That's how I started my journey here.
I grew up on the East Coast, and so comparing Raleigh to Boston was like, there's no comparison. And I actually had a conversation the other day with somebody who's relocating here. They're like, "Well, how far are you from Raleigh?" I said, "Well, like 12 miles. And they're like, "Really?" People don't realize how close we are to everything and the proximity. And that's one of the reasons why we have continued to stay here. And of course, I live downtown and I work downtown, and I plan on staying here because I can see the possibilities, and I like the way, most of the ways that it's, it's developing, and I can see it does have a future. And people do like the walkability of it, and that was our biggest draw to downtown.
In 2005, I was actually working with the city of Raleigh on a transit study for a mass transit system that would be connecting Raleigh and the university and downtown Cary and Durham. And so I was part of that study way back then. And that was my first introduction, really, even though I was living in Cary at that time, but I was living off of like a Penny Road in Kilter Farm. My first kind of introduction to the town of Cary, and then they started the, city center study, and we're bringing experts in from all over the place, including Boston. But that's when my first interest in downtown Cary happened, and we bought a piece of property back then, because I was walking around the city and said, this is gonna be really an exciting place one of these days, and that's how it all started for me.
All the way through to Cary High, off to NC State, and when it finally came time to kind of come back home and I had a huge interest in real estate, I could see the long-term future of our area because I had traveled a whole bunch of places and I saw what we had to offer and how much I could buy a house for compared to other places. And so after I got into my career in real estate and eventually did break away kind of from the bigger chains, I set up shop in downtown Cary because our proximity to downtown Raleigh is incredible. Our proximity to the airport is incredible. For a lot of it, it's, when you talk about residential real estate, a lot of that is driven by our local economy, our local road systems and stuff, and Cary's positioning is just incredible.
I would say that the challenge is if you're just looking and waiting to see something hit the multiple listing service. If that's all you're doing, you're a fish out of water. You really have to have your ear to the ground and understand what could be coming and door knock and be ready. But prepping a buyer in today's market is, a house hits the market or is coming soon at $499,000 for 1,100 square feet of 1966 glory. Yet on a walkable lot, with a flat walk to downtown, north facing with southern exposure for whatever you put in your backyard, you gotta be ready to spend another $100,000 on that property at this point to get it. Because we have such limited inventory and hundreds of buyers at different price points, and within that, we have different areas. Our clients are typically, oh, I don't like that street, nothing's going on there yet. Or, that's too far. Okay, well then, bring another couple $100,000. Anything closer than that is a lot more than your budget. So it's a conversation, you have to be frank, honest, realistic, and show them the statistics. And then partner with them, because in the end, everyone's gonna door knock, everyone's gonna look everywhere. It's a feeding frenzy out there, but there's nothing to feed on.
The biggest thing for me is, the buyers need to be realistic, and their agents need to be realistic when they come to the table. The day of $1 million or $1.2 million new construction house in downtown Cary, this shit's out. You're not gonna get anything under $1 million unless it's 2,000 square feet. And if it's on a $500,000 lot, I can't make that number work even more. So, we're seeing the price points push up. I've got one house listed now, 1.2, it's 2,700 square feet. It's on a 40-foot wide lot with no backyard. We also just sold 2 townhomes down here, 1.25, 3,000 square foot townhomes. So it's, the price points are pushing to 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 and higher.
Well, Wayne and I had a conversation about this about 6 years ago, and Wayne was like, I like it, but we're not ready for it. It's not coming. And we put every year, we pretty much every 6 months have this conversation about it, and then finally, not only, from a builder, it's risky to put out there a new product, a different thing. Less storage, more minimalistic. People, I want a modern house, but I want room for all my stuff. Like, that doesn't match. So, Wayne's been a pioneer in pushing the envelope on getting into modern, and as he's done it, he's like, I really like this, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's been a good product. He's correct, we talked about this a long time ago, and I just didn't feel like downtown Cary was ready for it. You've seen it inside the Beltline, you've seen some over around Everett, the whole village district, but you weren't seeing it too far out. You see, they were pre-sales, people would hire a builder to build one, but you just didn't see spec homes that were the modern style homes. So we started doing it, we've had great success with it. I'm building my personal house right now, which is an ultra modern home. I'm building one for a client down here, one of Lindsay Chester's friends, good friends. That is probably the most modern home we've built. But I think a lot of it has to do with the rooftop living, small lots, so you're trying to create that rooftop living, but the demand is there. I mean, if I built every house down here, modern or contemporary, we'd have no problem selling them. It costs a lot more to build those homes, and that's something that the people and the buyers and the agents need to understand, is that you're gonna spend $30 to $50 per foot more for that home than you're gonna spend for traditional.
That we've built so far, all moved from other places, all these friends, they've moved into downtown and they love it because they walk everywhere. It's great, yeah.
Well, what we're seeing too is, when you're paying, lots now, houses to be knocked down are in the mid-5s. So that number makes it hard to make anything work below $1.5 million, $1.6 million. But the 2 townhomes we sold at $1.25 million are in the contract. Those are out-of-state buyers that it's not their primary home. They're buying them here because they like the scene of downtown here in the park, and to be near their children and grandchildren. So there's a lot of money that wants to be in downtown here.
now, one thing within this conversation, one thing might need to be noted. We have a number of neighborhoods here downtown that are walkable, yet they're not part of the town center area plan. So their setbacks and their regulations are different. They're dictated by plat maps that have been there since the neighborhood was built, versus the overlay that was created in the town center area plan. And I believe long-term, we're gonna see pressure, if not soon, pressure to change or expand the town center area plan to accommodate more, because we have some really we have some restrictions out there that some agents and buyers are not aware of, and they're overpaying for properties they can't build closer to the street or further back on the property, and they're limited, and so.
Squeeze in the garage.
Right, or squeeze in, squeezing in a garage on a lot of lots, is a big thing. And then also on top of that, we have a lot of new construction going on right now that'll never hit the market. These are all people that have either owned the lots for a long time or bought the lots outright, and they're building for themselves, and it's not going to market. So we have a lot of new construction that when agents or buyers are driving around, they're like, ooh, when's that gonna hit the market? It's not. That's the problem. On top of it all, perception out there would dictate that there's a lot of things that are gonna hit the market. They're not. We should have not for sale signs. Conversation, for those who have kept with it, stuck with it, barely kept a roof over their head, being downtown, and now are cashing out at a price they would have never seen 20 years ago. And they would have never envisioned 20 years ago them being able to ever do that. So I help people actually cash out to move on elsewhere. That it really helps them, because some people are not aware until they need to or have to sell their home. And we're very fortunate right now that all of us and plenty of other pioneers are ready to help them cash out, okay?
I like Russell Hills and I like Walnut Hills. I made an offer on a house on Walnut Hills about 5 weeks ago. I didn't get it, but I think that's going to be the next frontier with what's happening, what eventually will happen at the old Cary town and what is happening in South Hills. You've got to fill that area in, and I think that's it. So, and I'm looking to go out there and not knock it down, but to do what I did over on 615 Union Street, where I've taken this was a 1960 split level ranch, which now we've got one under our belt that turned out amazingly. So we want to do that again. I know that I'm pushing the envelope when I go in there, but I'll push the envelope pretty much everywhere down here price point. Keith and I did a couple together down here where the price points had never been seen before. And now I think we're all pushing that envelope. But I really like what I hear. It's great.
Well, and I think anything really along the Maynard Loop, like, you know how when we talked about Raleigh in the past, it used to be like, are you ITB? Are you inside the Beltline? I mean, I think now it's, are you inside the Maynard Loop? And I think that those break off areas with Walnut Hills and such are huge, because you gotta look at the commercial development and investment that's gonna be going into what I would say is a 3-mile straight line from US 1 heading down Walnut Street to then Maynard. You've got the huge sports complex in South Hills Mall and all that getting redone. Then you've got the mall with Epic Games. The Fenton's already there doing their thing. And then, this piece of property up at the corner of Chatham Street and Maynard is gonna be quite a development undertaking. I mean, there's a lot of potential for that. So I think as that commercial fills up, the residential, to your point, has to